have understood
recommendations of the first one. So it calls really on your leadership, it calls on your capacity at personal level, at collective level, to really hold your place in the continent. Thank you very much.
I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria, in front of Criminal Investigation Department, CID, in the Yaba area. When I was a young child, I watched the TV being driven in and out of country. Growing, I didn't know the difference between policing and correctional activities at the time. I actually thought policemen were in charge of detainees. I guess that's the practice in Nigeria. Later on, I traveled to the United States of America, where I found myself involved in law enforcement. I guess growing up in front of country must have motivated me, seeing all those things that I saw growing up. My name is Adiboye Fadino. I'm a retired warden, commanding officer from the Department of Corrections, New York City. I retired a number of years ago. I'm here to express to you my thoughts on the topic of prison reform on behalf of our company, International Criminal Justice Solution. It is an honor to be considered, and I do not take this opportunity lightly to engage with colleagues and practitioners and stakeholders dedicated to advancing justice. At International Criminal Justice Solutions, we are committed to developing and promoting effective strategies for criminal justice reform, and we recognize the significance of international collaboration in achieving these goals. The focus of our event aligns closely with our mission, which includes rehabilitation, reducing recidivism, and equipping inmates with skills that can be utilized in the future. I'm confident that this conference will foster meaningful discussions that will positively impact our field. I want to thank Dr. Associate Professor Ujuagomo for making it possible for International Justice Criminal Solutions to be present here to participate in this conference. Doctor, you've done a terrific job. We've been here since the onset of this conference, and it's nothing but positive vibes from the beginning. May the Lord continue to bless and bless us. The topic before me today is about classification, segregation, and the I'm going to reiterate myself. The topic before me today is classification, segregation, jailbreaks, and effect on the economy. There are various forms of security classifications that both help organize, rehabilitate the correctional system. Using different real-life scenarios, and compare them and contrast our situation with international standards. I've lived in the US for 33 years. I worked in the public school system for 10 years. Then I transitioned into law enforcement, where I did 23.5 years. I retired as a commanding officer. It's very important to know. Because for 33 years, I'm not too familiar with what transpires. I'm very optimistic that everything that happens around the world when it comes to criminality is interwoven. At the end of my 10 years, when I went to correction, I was shocked to find my kids. I call them my kids, my students, in prison. It was heartbreaking. You know, so, I thought I should put that out there to let you know that prison, ethics, creed, ethnicity, and background can end up in prison. Before I go further, I would like to make some points clear that me being here today in front of you, I'm not here to point any fingers at anyone or castigate our nation building efforts, but to illuminate how much further we can go and how much better we can do when it comes to organizing, reforming our prison and security systems. I will also share ways that such scenarios can be improved. These are merely my own suggestions. My sincere hope is that these suggestions may help with mapping out our way to improve our security system as a nation and therefore improve our economy. Either we like it or not, imprisonment, escapes, has an it affects our economy, it impacts our economy, either directly or indirectly. To the main topic, classification. Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to know I don't have a lot of time to elaborate on what I would like to speak on, so I have to compress. And I only have 10 minutes, maybe 15. Classification. Classification is a process used by criminal systems, correctional and prison systems. Here, let me make it. Correction and prison are very interwoven. In the United States of America, we still use prison. We have prisons and we still use it. Okay. Both classifications are used in both settings, in the prison system and the correctional setting. Okay? Prison classification is a process used by correctional systems to assess and assign inmates to appropriate custody levels, facilities, and rehabilitation programs based on risk factors, needs, and behaviors. The goal is to ensure the safety of the public, staff, and other inmates, while also providing suitable resources for rehabilitation. There are factors to put into consideration when you classify. 1, security risk. In the United States of America, we have gang affiliations. We have the Bloods, the Crips, the Nietas, and so on and so forth, the Spanish groups. We have criminal history, recidivism. We have behavior, people that get in problems a lot with staff. We have mental health and medical factors that come in classification, and programs. I'm going to emphasize on the mental health, and since I can't talk, I'm going to pick what I think are most important classes. I'll speak on those because of time. Mental health. A lot of people have spoken about on mental health here today. Just yesterday or the day before, Dr. Luke Wu from University of California in Sacramento spoke about mental health, spoke about his family, his mom, frankly his entire family had spent time in prison. It was either the father or the stepfather that went to jail sane And when he got out, he had mental health issues. Prison is not a joke. Prison has an adverse effect on one's mental state of mind. Officers there, you can testify, you know that you work there, you still work there, I did it for many years. And I know I've seen a lot of people come insane, and after a number of years, you can absolutely identify that something is going wrong. You know, so it's very important to key in on the mental state of mind of people in your custody. Another class that I will talk about because of time is admin segregation. Admin seg. Admin seg is used to house influential inmates, vulnerable inmates, influential inmates. Not too long ago here in Nigeria, an inmate, and like I said earlier on, I'm not here to castigate or blame anybody for this. Is just my mere suggestion. Hopefully it will help. An individual popular figure here, Bobrisky, I don't know his name, Idris Okuneye, got into the monetary policy of central government. Was arrested, sentenced to spend time. It's certain that along that case, there was allegation was made against the Department of Corrections, whatever it was. I'm not here to speak on that. What I'm here to speak on is that if Bobrisky, I'm talking about admin seg now, where international inmates are supposed to be placed. Right? If Bobrisky had been placed in that kind of setting, if the Department of Correction has that kind of setting, I don't think Bobrisky would make that kind of allegation. You're supposed to have for influential inmates, for notorious inmates, for public figures. You don't have that kind of setting here because people just believe that they can't end up in jail in Nigeria. If it's evident that everyone is not immune, maybe the most important people here in our beloved country will make sure that we have prison settings that is available. So that's just my opinion. You can go and reflect on that. Like I said, I'm not going to be able to talk about all the classes that we have. I'm going to go to the next. I'm going to be very quick because I really want to get to the effect of classification, jailbreaks on the economy, which is the main meat and potatoes. That is the main reason why I'm here. But I'm going to run quickly through the classification levels that we have. We have the minimum, medium, maximum, and supermax. Minimum, low risk. Officers are familiar with, I'm not going to even spend time on this at all, but I'll go to the last one, the supermax. So we have the minimum, medium, maximum, and supermax. But everybody here is working with law enforcement. I think we have people in criminal justice and so on and so forth. So I'm not even going to dwell on that. The supermax I'm going to mention. Supermax supposed to house the most dangerous inmates. Supermax jail are setting supposed to house terrorist groups, inmates that violate constantly. If we have supermax setting, jailbreaks will be avoided. We've had too many jailbreaks in Nigeria. Too many. I've never heard of anywhere where 10, 20, 30 inmates escaped in one time in my life. That's an affront to our department. There's no reason. If we have supermax setting in place, there's no way on earth where you have people who escape from jail, usually one, maybe two, not 20, not 50, for God's sake. It's crazy. But let's move on because of time. Now, and even the supermarket, I just want to put this out there quickly. Like I said, I've done this, I did it many years. In the supermarket setting, or even any kind of prison setting, right? There's no reason why we should have this continuous jailbreaks if you institute what we call the use of CI. CI, confidential informant. It's legal. It's very legal. The CIA, the FBI, NYPD, these are they're not gods. Before something happens, they know about it, they nip it in the bud because they use confidential informants. I'm not sure if you guys have stuff like that in place, but there's nothing wrong with it. I want to take it back to the commanding officer and let them know that you guys, you're to institute something like that. Okay, time. I'm going to go because of time. I will have to skip some things that I think are not so relevant. I'm going to things that I think are very relevant. I'm going to go to the need for prison reform. The need for prison reform. The need for prison reform arises from a range of issues that undermine the effectiveness, the fairness, and humanity of correctional. Why do we need to have reform, reformation of prison and rehabilitation? And again, I'm just going to mention the reasons, and I'll pick just a few to elaborate on. If we reform prisons, we're going to reduce overcrowding. It helps to rehabilitate instead of punishing. And again, I can't overemphasize mental health. Mental health is paramount. Even apart from mental health, really, medical, period. Medical. It's very important to know that some of these inmates, you have to have adequate mental health screening and medical screening upon admission. Upon admission, there is a imperative that we have there in place. Because you have to understand people, all these inmates coming, homeless inmates, sick inmates with all kind of issues, diseases, mental health problems, and so on and so forth. They come without being triaged properly, and they are housed. The staff conducts their tour. They contract diseases, take them home to their family. The family goes to school, gives to other children. The children goes back. Before you know, we have a pandemic. So it's very, very important that we have the mental screening, mental and medical screening in place. Now, I have to hurry up now. I think I have like 5 minutes left, if I'm not mistaken. Well, prison reform is essential to create a more just, effective, and humane criminal justice system. It can enhance public safety, reduce costs, and promote fairness by focusing on rehabilitation, addressing system inequalities, and improving prison conditions. Now, in conclusion, since I have to go, I wish I had a little more time, but unfortunately, I have to go. Let's talk about the adolescents quickly, please. Adolescent inmates. Like I said, I don't live here, but the adolescents that were arrested recently and they were paraded in the courts here in Abuja. You know, that was I don't even know where to start. I don't know if it's the justice system we have to, you know, shout out or Department of Corrections, I'm not sure. Pardon? They never came to you. Well, but they were presented in the courts. You know, but there was an allegation that they were housed in adult facilities. You know, but you see, that's a no-no. that cash will never happen. That's the last thing to happen in a civilized nation. But here anything goes. But we have to understand that the world is watching us. The world is watching us. Okay. Anyway, in conclusion, I have to go, ladies and gentlemen, because of time. In conclusion, which I have time to. In conclusion, like I said earlier on, prison reform and a shift towards rehabilitation and essential for creating a safer society, reducing repeat offenses, and ensuring that those who have served their sentences can contribute positively upon release. Reform efforts can lead to more humane and effective criminal justice systems that emphasize restoration rather than punishment alone. If we can figure out the solutions out, we can continue to put efforts towards making our economy better. When companies like Mobil, Exxon, and other international companies continue their business elsewhere because of our country is not secure, and we ourselves, our families, kids, our grandkids, uncles, aunties, everybody feel unsecure, we need to put better correctional system and policing in place in help our economic tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Adepoye Fatima, CEO, International Criminal Justice Solutions,
where we have the leadership of the Nigerian Correctional Service present. Never have I ever seen it. And this is the first that is happening. And therefore, I see this as a very important moment that we should not miss. I'm also very glad that once we are asking the controllers of the various states to be present, we are also in the same breath asking the charges of non-custodial measures to be present. So we have the whole of the spectrum. I want to thank the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Program and International IDEA for supporting this. It happened that they have left this room, but please, it's important that we recognize the great support that they have provided. They are covering all of the flights, tickets, and for those who didn't have their flight ticket, they are going to refund all of the transportation. They are providing support also for the accommodation and also for what we're doing here. Just because maybe so many of you may not be aware, this meeting, it has the full backing of the entire governance of Broward. You heard our Broward chair give the welcome address, but he's not alone. You also have some other members of Broward who are here. So I just want to thank the board for their support. And what that means is that as they're understanding these issues and they're hearing you, it will be easier to make strategic decisions in terms of power, but in terms of where we go from where we are now. So I want to thank the board chair and the entire board for your presence and for your support. This particular presentation that we're making is the main reason why we're here. And once I finish, I will be able to discuss, and then we'll see how we flow. But please do permit me to acknowledge some very special people who are in our midst. First, perhaps someone that I have not introduced before. And he is a man I've come to appreciate because of his interest in training and capacity building, but because of the fact that he's not tired, he's almost tireless. He's one who I met several years when he was just the commandant. There are certain programmatic levels that we want to learn from and get better. But also, there's also a lot of things Nigeria can also, and Africa can also teach the rest of the world if we get our axes right. The problem is that is the problem. Okay, let me now, with your permission, please move on to talk about this model custodian correctional service law. Please move on. In terms of dealing with this, we will be looking at, and please, is it possible, we will be looking at this outline that you see here, which includes the very brief introduction and background. Then we'll look at the rationale for thinking about having a state correctional service law. We'll do a little bit of the overview, and then we'll look at what are the key innovations that we find here. Strategies that can help in terms of getting the states to adopt and enact, of course, to the within the framework of their own context, the correctional service law. And then what's the next step? So that will be the kind of skeletal outline that we use. So you can look straight. I don't like the positioning on this, so it makes it difficult for me. I would have preferred that way. But look at what happened on the March 17th, 2023. We already knew that there was some alteration of the Constitution, number 15. But what that did was to change what we have always had. Yeah? And what we have always had, can somebody help me here? I really would like to, because these pillars are obstructive. I would really like to see, maybe they built, and maybe because they built without the specifications from the correctional service, it was rejected. But the truth was that a lot of states were helping. And let me tell you something, about 87% of those you find in custody were, before that time, living in the state where the correctional centers are. Meaning that, this truth that this is actually your person, yeah? But there is also another dimension which made this shift very, very well welcomed. The bulk of the people in custodial centers are there on state offenses. Many of you are attorney generals, so you know what I'm talking about. And everyone who is in custody came because he had been sent. Usually they must pass through the court. And I tell you, those who are there for federal offenses are very mindful. I'll give you an example, a particular scenario that happened, which really convinced me that this is the right way to go. There is one of the correctional officers is now retired. They retired as a deputy controller of corrections. But what I'm about to tell you happened when he was the controller of corrections for Lagos State. And I'm talking about no other than Tunde Ladebo, DCG retired. When he was a controller in Lagos, someone said he wanted to celebrate birthdays and wanted to cook food and bring for inmates, which is something we see a lot. So he was happy, but on a second thought, he said, these inmates will finish eating this food. Tomorrow, who will give them again? So he told his friend, listen, is it possible that you convert this money you want to spend on food and pay the fines of the ones you can pay? And this man said to him, okay, give me the list of all of the ones that have fines, that if I pay, they will go. And I think the list was either between 100 and something or 200, I can't remember. They gave the man the list, and this man paid for the fines of all of those, and they got out. And the lady was very happy. Everybody was very happy, and he did not stop there. He went to this, but the fines were increased. Income generation for states. Now, this for me is the trajectory of what happens everywhere. Many, for environmental cases, you come if you don't make things, take out. I was in Brno the other day and I looked at the statistics. I was happy. I said, you are not overcrowded. I was so excited. You are not looking beyond your capacity. I was excited. Only when I started talking to inmates and I saw a case of somebody who had been asked to be there for 700, but she needed to pay 700,000 or something. And by the time you calculate what the person has spent eating the food. So the question here is that we need to be a little bit strategic And I don't want to use this word. Please let me not use the word that is coming to my mind. I won't use it because it doesn't sound too good. But we need to look at this as people who have some sense. If you push somebody in a place because, say, he's supposed to pay 700,000 or whatever it is, and the amount of you will use in feeding the person, just food. I've not talked about drugs if the person gets ill. I've not talked about what will happen, in terms of the manpower, the officers that are looking after. I've not talked about that. Just taking only one element of cost, which is not the only cost element. Food. Only food. I've not talked about anything. The amount you spend on the food, being, let's say, 2 million or something like that. Okay, let's do this mathematics. I'll do this and I'll move on. Officers, please, how much is per head per day currently for the image? Not the new price being talked about. I'm talking about the one that is applying now. How much, sir? 1,125. Please, you can bring your calculators. Let's try something. No. No, it's 1,125 now. 1,125. Please use your calculator. Times, no, wait. It has not been implemented. You have not seen that one. Okay. Don't worry, we can try. You say you want us to use 70. We will do 2 parts. So let's move on because we will do the 2 calculations. We want us to use 750 first. Or you have to bring 750. Use your calculator, do 750. I want the controllers here. Can you mention your state and just tell me at today, just give me a figure. What is your population? Yes, sir. Lagos State, what's your population, sir? 1,000? 9,480. Please, can you time? 9,418 times 750. Wait, let's say times 750. Do you have it? Okay, wait. That is 7. That is for 1 day. Times, wait now. Times 30. Please now. No, wait, we haven't finished. Times 12. Please just listen. 2 billion. This is for Lagos State alone. Now, but let me tell you, please, is it possible for us to be very quiet? There are benefits to the charges in custodial center for that number. As a nation, and I say this with, and God be my judge, the hurt we cause by allowing people to be in custody when they ought not to be is a hurt that God will not forgive. People who are in custody, it is not custodial officers that bring them there. The problem starts from the police through AIG. Let him hear. From the police through to the lack of diligent prosecution by the ministries of justice, to the attitude of the courts, and again to the invested interest of the correctional officers and those who are connected to supplying food in custody. No, listen. Nobody knows how long he will live or she will live. What we are trying to do is that we want something that will deal with the real problem. There are better ways to make money, and that money will make it legitimately. Okay, I just said this to set the stage. Please, can we quickly move on? And of course, after that event, there were a lot of things that began to happen. You know that you have health, education on the Concurrent Legislative List. The difference between that and what happened with the Correctional Service is that for those ones, you know the level of competency of the federal and the state. So you know the kind of items or activities that the state should be more involved in or the federal will be more involved in. For the alteration that happened here, that was not done. So it was like a open field. So the question therefore is, which model will we use in Nigeria? When this problem, this issue of concurrent placement of the correctional service in the legislative list. When it happened, a lot of correctional officers were concerned and worried. What does this mean? Does it mean they're losing their job? A lot of states were also worried. What does it mean? Does it mean now that we are going to look for money from where? Will the federal government give us more share than it's giving us? But I'm here to explain to us some of the things that can be done and how this is such a big opportunity to do the right thing. Okay, so certain things started happening in terms of when this law happened, and then the first was that on 10th to 11th of May 2023, there was a high-level meeting here in the same Sheraton, now with a different name. But that meeting, we had judges, we have some attorney generals, you were there. Thank you. This is Attorney General of Anambra State. She's also a former Dean of Law of the University, Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Thank you. But she said she was at that meeting. We had a lot of people with a big, fanciful thing. And we came and talked about the big English and we finished. You know? But the question is how much have we done after our big English? And that's why this meeting is very important. Let's quickly move on to the next slide. All of you are seeing here, and I'm happy to make this presentation available to all of you that can be sent. But it was there just to tell you all of the things that we have done. Once that happened, we began to have the first strategic dialogue in just to talk about what is the implication of this. On the 24th of March, the Solicitor General of the Federation and the Permanent Secretary was a guest of honor at something that we did virtually to begin to talk about this. Let's please just quickly. And you can see all the series of virtual meetings, 6th of June, 7th of July, 21st of July, 4th of August, 18th of August, 1st of September, it goes on and all of that. A lot of that happened in 2023. And then by first week of August, we started thinking of having a model in quote. And what gave us the interest about this, to do this, was that many of you may know about the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015. That Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015 was what many states began to adopt into the Administration of Criminal Justice laws. Though, unfortunately, sometimes they copy verbatim plus copying the mistakes, you know, and then it happens. But what I will encourage is that every state should also look at what are the peculiarities that they need to adapt so that it speaks volume to the processes that we are all having. Okay? Now, and we continue, so please, let's just move on. Now, what's the rationale? The rationale is, imagine if we didn't have some kind of a standard framework. People would come from any angle, you know. They may go to somebody in Sweden and say, come and tell us how we can draft a law. Another state will go to somebody in the US or somebody in Canada, and at the end of the day, you have different practices in different states. It will really be a madhouse. And I think the best thing is for us to have something that will provide some form of guidance that each state can now make certain levels of adaptation. Again, it will help us to cover the fields. Let's quickly move on. All right? So as we continue here, you will see that they need to have accountability. They need to look at priorities that needs to happen in terms of integrating rehabilitation. Some of the things you heard the minister say this morning. In terms of rehabilitation, in terms of also having some form of a collective responsibility, you know, a sense of ownership of the people. Now, yes, let me say something before I go into this overview of the provision of the law. You know that on the 31st of July 2019, we had the birthing of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019. That's when the then president signed it into law. This model correctional service actually was being guided by the provisions and rationale of that, the 2019 law. So that at the state, the differences about what is happening in the state and at the federal would not necessarily look different. And by the way, having about 56, is that it? Correctional centers, how many do we have? 265 or 256? 256 correctional centers includes also what is called satellite custodial centers and lockups. Satellite custodial centers are small custodial centers that are located in places where you have courts but you don't have a normal custodial center. Now, the point here is that this law aligns to it. So I will quickly move on to the next, the description of this part, and I will be pointing to you the differences between the model law and the 2019 law. In the model law, the first part is that we have objectives, applications, and guiding principles. In the Correctional Service Act of 2019, the only thing you have is the objectives, and that is defined in section 2. Okay? I will come back to that section 2, but let me explain that section 2 because it is really important, especially section 2, sub 1. That section 2, sub 1 have A, B, C, D. And each of these gives you a frame of what the entirety of the law is about. The first part, which is section 2, sub 1A, talks about ensuring compliance with international human rights standards and good correctional practices. International human rights standards, which means applicative. If you remember what Isidore spoke about, the violation in terms of CAT, but he's talking about the international human rights standards that contained in terms of dealing with the issue of correction and good correctional practices. There are some correctional practices that is, they are not about human rights, but they are good correctional practices. And for the abundance of that, and I will encourage you please maybe to take note of this, that the main documents that talks about the international scope in terms of this are as follows. Please do take note so that you can easily look at them and download it. I have pleaded that they will bring you publications. Please, the Power team, hello? Power team, please, I would like publications including the compendium of all international instruments to be made available to all the participants. Publications, all publications on Power, please make sure that you pack a set for each of you. The ones about the international documents and regional instruments, please make sure that is all of them to have a pack each. Just make sure it is covered. If you need to get to your Abuja office to get more, please do so. If they do what I said, you may probably have a copy that will have some of this. But write this. Number 1, United Nations Standard Minimum Rule for Treatment of Prisoners. It's important. It's called the Mandela Rules. United Nations Standard Minimum Rule for Treatment of Prisoners. It is a key instrument that everybody looks at. Number 2, United Nations Standard Minimum Rule for Treatment of Women in custody and non-custodial settings. The title is not exactly the way I called it. It's the Bangkok Rules. The Bangkok Rules. The Bangkok Rules. I will also tell you that the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for Treatment of Women. You put in bracket Bangkok Rules. If you type this, you'll see the full document. Number 3, the United Nations Standard Minimum Rule for Non-Custodial Measures. The United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for Non-Custodial Measures. Put in bracket the Tokyo Rules. Tokyo Rules. The Tokyo Rules. Yeah? The first is the Mandela Rules. The second is the Bangkok, which is about women. The third is the Tokyo Rules, which is about non-custodial measures. Also add, I don't know whether I still gave you that reference, the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules, the United Nations Convention on Torture, Cruel, Inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment. I'll repeat it. United Nations Convention on Torture, United Nations Convention on Torture, Cruel, Inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment. That is called the UNCAT. The UNCAT. The final one I will mention here, but there are many, is the optional protocol. The optional protocol to that first one, the last one I mentioned. So it's the optional protocol to the United Nations Convention on Torture, crime, inhuman and degrading treatment or punishment. Yeah? I will give you, maybe you see more and I can give you more. But I only for the first three, it will be enough. I'm telling you this in terms of the scope regarding international human rights standard. That is Section 2, Sub 1A of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019. So in the wordings of the Nigerian Correctional Service, you will see certain phrases that are actually guided by this international standard, especially the Mandela rules. With some of them, I will point them out to you. Then Section 2, Sub 1B of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019 use the word, it said, is to establish enabling platform for the effective implementation of non-custodial measures. To establish an effective enabling platform, and you use the word enabling because before 2019, the ACJA of 2015, that is the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, has provisions in terms of non-custodial, but they were not effectively implemented. It may be because of the staffing or so many other things. I recall having asked the then Chief Judge of the FCT, I said, my Lord, Honorable Justice Ishaki Bello, he said, why are you not implementing non-custodial? He said, in the ACJA. He said, where are the staff? And later on, I also found other errors in the ACJA, because the ACJA was now specifying that the supervision for non-custodial should be done by court officers. You know, when a court sentences somebody to imprisonment, say for 5 years or 2 years, it can be the court also supervising that person. They sent to correctional service. But you know, this was 2019. There was no non-custodial measures, the directorate. So nothing exists in a vacuum. The drafters did not mean bad, but who would they say should supervise? Because there was no, the correctional service was known only as custodian. That's all they were doing. Just a second. Mary, please, can I see you for a second? Please, one, please. Okay, just a second, please. Just a second. Thank you very much. All right. But with the 2019 law, certain things happened. And that's why you will see the whole of Part 2 of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019 all about non-custodial. As a matter of fact, from Section 37 Sub 1, all about it. So it's important, think about this. We will come back to talk about the relationship with that. Section 2 Sub 1C of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019 talks about reformation, rehabilitation, and integration. So if you look through from Section 10 of the Nigerian Correctional Service, as we start talking about things that are supposed to be promoting rehabilitation, you know, the risk assessment, all of those, and all of that. So that's part of, I'm telling you the spirit behind the new Nigerian Correctional Service Act. I don't know whether I could call it new now, but at least the 2019 one. The final one, please note this. In the 2019 law, which you find in Section 2(1)(d) of the 2019 Correctional Service Act, says it is put something like this, like this to control a number of people who are waiting trial through an institutionalized systemic, mechanism that will control the number of people who are in custody. Because part of the major problem for us in Nigeria is the high number of people who are not convicted. Over 70% of the custodial population are not convicted. That is when you look at for the whole country, and that's not the true picture. There are some states that population is as much as 90, 87. There was a time, I don't know now the statistics for Owerri Custodial Center, but there was a day I got into this, was before the jailbreak. And these are part of the reasons why we have jailbreak. Anyway, there was a time I got in there, the number of people who are waiting trial was about 97 or 93%. Is that not madness? Because any custodial officer not been convicted. Because all they are thinking of, how they going, how they going. Every morning, all they are doing is about going to court. If you where, which car, no car. But when you know somebody who is convicted, you say, okay, you have 5 years. You can plan the regime. You are the first 1 year. You are going to learn how to sew, or you are going to do anger management course. So the truth is that the way we have it now, if I'm to tell you the honest truth, there is nothing like anybody managing properly for pension or have nothing. Because they're overwhelmed. Not to talk of their worksheet. That's a different matter. So you find a situation where we have high number of persons, and there's another issue here, because within the construct of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act, the controller, these people here, can move somebody from one custodial center to another custodial center. It's within their power, provided it's within their states. The zonal coordinator can do the same within the zone that the person is in charge. The controller general can do the same from anybody to any part of Nigeria. It is within the law. The problem is if the person is awaiting trial, no. The problem is that if the person is awaiting trial, what if the person is going to go to court? If you have moved the person from FCT to Zamfara, how will you then bring logistics again? Hello, I'm hearing so much noise. I know that I'm hearing noise and you are doing your head like this. Yes, I know. I know. They know that I'm saying the truth. They know. But don't worry, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. You know? So if the people are convicted, if you say this facility is overcrowded, they can move the person to anywhere. The other thing I would want to tell everybody, and this is why section 12 sub 4 to 12 of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act is meant to deal with this. This section, I really want to lay it so bare, because that is what you will now need to then begin to use to understand the model law and what you need to do. Because if you don't understand the subject matter, it's difficult for you to do any legislative guide on that. Because law is meant to come and cure a problem. So first you have to understand the problem. You have to understand the root solution of the problem. Otherwise, you can't make a headway. So, the Nigerian Correctional Service, every custodial center in the whole of the country have designated capacity. They know. When you enter the custodial center, that's the first thing you see is the capacity. And as I tell anybody, there is no institution, I'm still waiting to be corrected, there is no institution of governance in Nigeria that I'm aware of that is able to keep statistics and record as much as the custodial service. You know why? No, it's not to clap. No, it is the nature of your job. Don't clap. Listen. No, wait. Because when they are doing even shifts, when they are doing shifts, the officer that is moving will take the record. As at the time I'm moving, lock up, they will state it. When you see a senior officer before them, the first thing they announce, shows that, open up, they just give you the statistics. Every day, the Controller General gets information of all of the custodial centers in the whole country. Every day, they have it. And yet, let me tell you another problem. Nigerian Correctional Service, you know, a lot of times people come and talk about the fact that Nigeria has a underpopulation. Our problem, please, let's understand this. They say that the custodial centers will lock fewer people. It's not true. You know why? They will call you and tell you the population of Nigeria and tell you that as a support to the fact that Nigeria does not lock up people well. Now listen. Apart from the Nigerian Correctional Service, and it's very interesting that I'm saying this because maybe our solution will come from the speakers from the state assemblies in terms of now the list for correcting, at least from your states. Every custodial center that is held by Nigerian Correctional Service has designated capacity. AIG, sir. Every police station, does it have a designated capacity that everybody knows? Like, you know, if you come into a custodial center, please, let's. If you come into a custodial center, if you enter the first place you enter, there's a board always. When you see that board, the capacity will be written there. Your people, do they have? So we know of the more than 5,000 police stations that we have in the country, you have the capacity for each of them. That's where we have a problem. We are going to look at, but you know what? We have about 19 institutions in Nigeria that have the power to lock up people, keep people. From the police to the EFCC, DSS, FCC, FEF, whatever. You sure take that one, you can even know who knows. Civil defense, NDLE, the list are counted. So when they tell you the population of people in custody, you can only know the ones in the custody of the Nigerian Correctional Service until Nigeria has a centralized database of everyone in all places of detention at any particular time. Nobody can tell you to know the population of the people in custody. The United Nations, during the last 2 periodic review of Nigeria, part of the recommendation they made to Nigeria is we should have a centralized database. Okay, you are making noise, so we are discussing big issue. You should have a centralized database. That's what they ask Nigeria to do. Because you can't plan when you don't know your number. You must know all your places of detention, and they have to be accessible to everyone who has the mandate to have oversight, including the legislator. So now we don't know our population. No minister knows that number. No, not even SSS, not the president. So that is our first problem. But let's say we forget that we have others and focus on correctional centers now. I am saying that section 12 of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act, from subsection 4 to 12, gives you a role, and I'm going to come back after making this and I'll move a little bit faster. Because you know, I told you something about section 2, who remember? Sub 1D, which I said is to control in a sustainable manner the number of those who are waiting trial. And the provision in that 2019 law to help you do this, please help me to be writing this section so that you can go back and look at it. I've given you section 2, sub 1, A, B, C, D of the 2019 law. Look at it. And I said that section 2, sub 1, I gave some example. I said sub 1B, you see it's part 2, non-custodial to support it. When you now go to section 2, sub 1C, example of the supporting thing for rehabilitation is section 10 of the same 2019 law. Yes? So when so you have section 2, sub 1C that talks about rehabilitation and reform. Also put section 10 of the 2019 law. Now, we go to that section, the last part of that objective. Section 2, sub 1E. No, D rather, D. You now put and section 12, 4 to 12. That section 12 is a golden mine. The section 12 puts a mechanism for controlling the number in custody. I will tell you what it says. Section 12 says, from subsection 4, that any superintendent of custodial center, superintendent of custodial is the person in charge of the custodial center, or the controller of the state. When he notices that the capacity, I told you all of their facilities have capacity. When he notices that the capacity is about to be exceeded or has been exceeded, he has 1 week to notify, and all of the people listed there are people who have power to do something. Notify the Honorable Attorney General, notify the Chief Judge, notify Administration of Criminal Justice, and the rest of them. To say, our population is shooting up. And after that notification, if the law says they should give 3 months, and within that 3 months, there are certain things the law have given as creative things that all of these people are listed, the Attorney General, the Chief Judge, or whatever, can do to reduce the population. But if they decide not to do anything, after expiration of 3 months, when they bring anybody against they put in custody, that the custodial officer will say no. That's what is in the law. The law says that if you continue to take, after the expiration of 3 months, when you have activated the early warning signal, that you are supposed to be sanctioned. Though he didn't state what the sanction should be. But you see, if I have interest in the population growing, if I have gone to bribe to be given a station, big station, the motivation, you understand, to go and activate the early warning signal. That is part of the problem. Do you understand? And that's why I told everybody that we must look at God and look at what we do. So I will now say something. In the model law, there is a difference. Please, I'm hearing some little noise, please. In the model law, there is a difference between these objectives by just 1 point. 1 point. What happened in the model law is that the model law introduced another objective. And that objective was made as the fourth objective, whereas the fourth one in 2019 law became the fifth objective. I'm going to show you that objective very soon, and I'll tell you it is another goal in mind in terms of the model law. So the first part, as I said, is about the objective, application, and guiding principles. We're going to look at it. But the 2019 law did not have application and guiding principles. It had only objectives, which I took a lot of time to explain to you. Part 2 talks about the establishment of the State Correctional Service. Part 3 talks about appointment of the State Controller General and Deputy Controller General of Corrections. Let's move to the next slide while I tell you that there are some states feel, why are you answering? Why do you want them to answer State Controller General? No, now. And then in some states they say, why would they not, what do you call the person in charge of the Ministry of Justice at the federal level? Who can say, what's the name? Attorney General of the, what do you call the one that is the one in charge of Ministry of Justice at the state? Yeah, Attorney General of the state, isn't it? So, what do you call the person in charge of Correctional Service at the federal? Controller General. Maybe not Controller General of the Federation. What do you call, or what do you think then should be called the one at the state? Controller General of the state. Anyway, I don't care. The name is not a very important thing. If you decide, you can even call the thing General, anything. The name is not the problem. I just wanted to let you know that some people say they like the State Controller General while others don't like it. Now, part 4 is about custodial centers. Part 5 is about the state non-custodial. Then part 6 is about training, welfare, professional development and recognition. Whereas the next one talks about partnership and collaboration. We were going to spend a lot of time talking about this partnership and collaboration. And you now have the one about oversight, cooperation and harmonization of the correctional practices. Next one. And then we have the issue about funding and resource allocation and the parties and miscellaneous. Please move to the next slide. When you are doing that, I want to say something. Part of the problem, let me say this. When the drafting of the Correctional Service Bill, the one that later on became the law, was being done, there was a lot of discussions as regards where do you really want one organization. First, there was a discussion about the name, whether name should be changed or not changed, and if it be changed to what. And there was one of the bills, because the changing of this law came about because of 4 private member bills in the Senate, including one by the current First Lady, which was born for women. But also at the House of Representatives, there was also another 4 set of different private member bills. Yeah? So it just happened that first was the House of Rep, they had a public hearing. They invited people. Power went like every other person. So after our presentation, the chairman came and started pleading that, please, can we help them to harmonize and then make a presentation to them. Somehow, not too long after, the Senate did a similar thing. Again, as I said, 4 different private member bills. And maybe because they heard that we were helping the House of Rep harmonize, they asked us to do the same. And that's why the provisions of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019 have reflected the entirety of the whole 8 private member bills, different ones. That's how it came about. And that's why when you look at the one on women, it's very generous. The one on security, just like that. One of the private member bills had asked that the Nigerian Correctional Service, then Nigerian Prison, should be called Nigerian Prisons and Correctional Service. So there was an argument, and we were asked to go and do a research on all of the names that different countries were calling their correctional service. And we found that it was only 2 countries that were using that term, Nigerian, and are using the term prisons and correctional service. And those 2 countries are Fiji and Zimbabwe. They said they don't want to follow that one. So that's how we ended up. But the big thing and you hear a lot of Nigerians say, what is in the name, that nothing has changed. Because they kept saying, it should not be only a change in name. So if truly the law is being implemented, you will see many things that should make it not just a change in name. Yeah? So, why am I talking about this? I was talking about this because of the issue about funding. There is nothing that has saddened me so much in terms of this implementation of this law to understand that how can somebody being given is like you put sugar is put on your mouth, something good given to you, you don't want to use it because this is a gold mine. A lot of countries, especially West African countries, were so happy to see they were even asking for a soft copy of the Nigerian Correctional List so that Ghana had been begging me. They want to take and change Nigeria, put Ghana and just. But you that have done your own, you are not implementing it. You have Nigerian Correctional Service, you have the non-custodial measures, you talk about funding. I was shocked to hear in a meeting, it was not a really meeting, it was a media event here. I was with the minister. So they asked the question, and in my talk, I mentioned, I said, how can you have non-custodial measures and you are not funding it? You are making it look like a junior brother. We were told, because there are countries where non-custodial is not managed by the correctional service. You have prison service separate, you have non-custodial separate. Kenya is one country. Kenya has Kenya Prison Service, Kenya Probation Service. But the truth was, I think it was Portugal, the Director General told me that when they started, they had separate one, but because of money issue, they decided that it was best that you have one organization. So for us, we felt that if you expand the mandate of the Nigerian Correctional Service, that it would be easier because even before you start, they can be using their own staff and all that, which is exactly what they did. They had made some changes internally, you did, designated the Directorate of Non-Custodial, have a DCG for non-custodial, have the 5 ACGs for under the section 37 and all the rest of that. But there's no funding at the state level. Sometimes controllers, you know what you do with your non-custodial officer staff. You know, it's disheartening. And I was shocked when the minister said that the correctional service have not requested for money. He said he had told you people that he will not look at 2025 budget without seeing a budget line on non-custodial. So how can we say government is not funding when we have not asked government for funding? So I don't know whether that is the situation. So please, at the state, please don't allow this to happen. Because you can have a new, very beautiful law. If you don't do anything about the law, implementing it, it won't work. Please, next time, quickly. Just go. The guiding principle talks about the relationship. And this is, no, go back. Go back. See, this is that point I made. Yeah? Listen, you know, I told you that in the 2019, there's so much noise. Are you tired? You know, when you are making noise, it makes, because I receive inspiration before I'm talking to you. So when you are talking, it's stopping that inspiration. God is not telling me hello. Atadala is laughing at me. And it's not a lie, it's true. I find that when the place is quiet, it flows better. Please, let's do it. We'll try. The reason I'm taking time, there's no other presentation we're going to have throughout the session anymore. It is now you doing your group work. That's what we are doing. But you need to understand, if you understand it well, you can close your eyes because you need to defend it. Tomorrow it may be you talking about this to people. Should I continue, sirs? God bless you all. I don't see enough women this side, there's no problem. I don't see enough, but no problem. Okay, so I want to tell you one of the gold mines in this new law that you need to do at the states. And this does not exist in the federal one. Should I tell you? It is this section. In the model law, you see it as section 1D. It's different from the one I was telling you before. The other one I was telling you before is 2019 Act. 2019 Act, it is section 2 sub 1 that you see the listing of the objectives. But in the model law, it is section 1. You see the objectives. But you see, the problem in Nigeria, which is why this wording of section 1D, every law enforcement, AIG Concurrent can attest to that, and others, not just the police. We are setting time. We are waiting for people to commit crime. We are not doing anything to prevent the crime. We are not doing anything to prevent them from offending in the first instance. Sometimes I have seen police waiting for somebody, to see whether you just jump that. don't you try to make sure that the person doesn't violate? So this law, this new thing we are asking you to do, is to change the narrative, is to change the direction. Look at it. It says, advance a comprehensive, cross-government, I'm coming back to that, and societal approach in the delivery of correctional services with a primary focus on and so the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019 talks about preventing offending. All of those things about preventing offending. Nobody has ever talked about preventing offending. But this new law says no. There are signs you will know of somebody that if you don't check, you will become a criminal tomorrow. Maybe a doctor or school. Maybe he's taking or he's following bad guy. Maybe he has families from a broken home. You know, one of the things that made, you know, before you came, we had an international conference. We tried so hard to see whether we could have support to have you people earlier. That international conference ended yesterday. It was the international conference on justice, corrections, peace, security and development. The keynote speaker is Dr. Luke Wood. He's the youngest president of an university in the United States. The president is the vice chancellor. When he was telling his story, tears were almost on my eyes. I couldn't believe it. He spoke about how his mother was incarcerated because of that issue of mental issues. You know, maybe that led to a crime or what, I don't know. His father, his biological father, his adopted father, please. His father, his adopted father, and all that. And how he spent time in foster home. So, the truth is that statistics have shown that people coming out from families where there are criminal, maybe uncle was a, you know, and all that. Most of the people who are criminals, if you go back, there are certain things that shows that link. I can't read what you're saying. Use the proper marker or write it for me to see. 15. Okay, I'll try my best. So what this is saying, we look out for it. So if you do that, it's a golden mine. But you can see the word comprehensive and cross-government. I think comprehensive, you will know that it just covers the field. But this cross-government and societal approach is another golden mine around this new law. What he's saying is to carry the weight of correctional services. You need every part of the government, the whole of government approach. You need every part of the society, the whole of society approach. You may ask me, what does that mean? Ministry of Health needs to be involved. Education, industry, youth, agriculture, all of that. There's no reason why Ministry of Health, maybe you are going to send teachers to school. You send teachers to a school in, say, the same community where you have a correctional center, and then you drop the correctional center and go to another school in another neighborhood. Because there's a very thin line within the custodial center. The issue is that if custodial center is meant to provide everything, it will weigh you down, it will work. I was in South Africa and I was surprised. We went for a meeting of the African Correctional Services Association, a technical meeting, and I went with the then Controller General of Correctional, Ogulikwe, and some others. And then the president of that association then, or the immediate past, was the Commissioner of Prisons for Zambia, Gibinawa. We got to South Africa, he became very sick. Very sick. He could not attend. I've never seen that kind of a thing. He just went down very fast. So I was running around trying to see what can we do. I said, take him to prison, doctor, take him to the correction. They thought I fell from the moon. I said, where is your prison clinic? You know, where is your prison doctor? They said, there's nobody like that. No place like that. I said, no, in my country we have. They said, no, there's a hospital. Why should you? I said, when a correctional officer gets ill, where did they go? It's a hospital. What of you made? It's the same hospital. They don't have, so, you know, you can't be jack of all trades and master of none. that's another point. But here, what it means is that because if you carry it alone, it will weigh you down as a state. But Ministry of the Health, Ministry of Agriculture, at the state level, you all see correctional service as the whole of government approach that you need to deliver. We need agriculture. I was talking with, I don't know, do we have the Attorney General of Fabian? So happy. But just not too long ago, we were working on this in Abia, and I was so impressed by the kind of approach that were coming. I'm talking about, you can have farm centers for non-custodial. They take you, you go and farm. After farm, you go home and eat in your hands. Why should the government be paying for the food? Meanwhile, you committed an offense. So this is a good mind. If you change money to them, when we were talking about this, the model law, I will tell you the areas that are like the juicy part, that nothing should make you touch it. Okay, let's quickly move on to the next thing. Section 5 just talks about the structure. I'm not going to spend time talking about it, but I'm going to tell you something that you'll be guided in terms of what you want. When they were drafting the Nigerian Correctional Service Bill, which became the law later of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019, the initial recommendation was that we have 6 directorates for non-custodial and 6 directorates for custodial. They said they didn't want it. And part of the issue was then that you have a balance. So they ended up giving non-custodial only 1 directorate. Don't do it. If you want to have reduced directorate or unit or department, whatever you call it, make sure that the number you give to custodial is the number you give to non-custodial. The next thing is that we had made the recommendation for there to be controller of custodial, controller of non-custodial. They say they don't want. Hey, everybody, some people are sleeping. Is that correct? Should we stand up and sit down? Okay, should we stand up? Please, let's stand up. Stand up. Please, I'm sorry, sir. You can do like this, like this, like this, like this. Just stretch yourself. Stretch yourself. Stretch yourself. You want to come and... Okay, walk around, sir. Thank you, sir. 5 minutes, walk around. Head break, please.
I said when we went to judge then, after a series of lectures, they will give you the opportunity to stretch yourself because you are already bored. So that's you can use yourself.